Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
Kia ora and welcome to Emergence News, streaming live on Plains Media across Christchurch and Canterbury on 96.9 FM. We are, here at Emergence News, a group of Share International co-workers, all volunteers, who support the vision of global justice and the sharing of resources for all people. We also promote and discuss and educate on the subject of the reappearance of the Masters of Wisdom, those humans who have progressed ahead of us in evolution and development and are now working on our behalf, mostly behind the scenes, to support humanity take the steps needed to provide universal healthcare for all, education and housing as a human right, sufficient food supply for everybody on the planet of plenty, and to start the process of eliminating war. Also, reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and therefore help restore the health of our planet. We don't ask you necessarily to agree with everything we broadcast, but we offer this information for you to consider and ponder. And joining me in the studio today, welcome, Peter.
Hello, Nigel. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
The Spiritual Hierarchy, a group of wise men who have guided us through many troubled times over thousands of years. I said they're mostly working behind the scenes, but sometimes there is evidence that some are walking amongst us.
Yes, indeed, and they are certainly walking amongst us at the moment because we've got the end of the Piscean era and the beginning of the Aquarian era. And so the Masters will be coming forth led by Maitreya the Christ. And so there will be something in the order of 40 of these Masters working in amongst us in the next 2,500 years.
And you just mentioned Maitreya. He's working with an avatar of synthesis. So he's really got some heavy cavalry assisting him, hasn't he?
That's right. Yes, these are great beings, of course, with huge cosmic consciousness and a complete ally for Maitreya and his message. So he's got a lot of help there. And
Shafir, welcome.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Yes, we need that help from above, don't we?
We definitely do.
The help and support from above needs to be recognised and acknowledged, doesn't it? There is such an appetite out there for sharing, kindness and peace. And there is more to life than just those material temptations we are fed via the modern competitive media machine.
Yes, and you know, the mythology is that at every change of era, the ever-coming one comes in various different forms and helps to set the seeds for the next cosmic evolution and this will be the age of Aquarius, of course.
And of course, we're right at the cusp, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
Yes, we're entering the age of Aquarius, but we haven't fully left the age of Pisces behind, as Peter just intimated.
Well, this is why we've got so much turmoil, because we've got the old and the new clashing. This is, happens. It's like history repeating itself.
Yes, and we've mentioned the 7 rays in the past. The ray 6 is now departing, but there's still enough potency coming from the 6th ray to create that tension and that chaos.
Yes, and the 6th ray is about, sort of devotion and also individualization, which when it goes to its peak, it's sort of separatism and fanaticism, which we're seeing in the world.
And then we've got the 7th ray coming in, which is quite the opposite. It's all about group work.
Yes.
So that creates that cleavage, doesn't it?
It does, yes. And we're seeing the sword of cleavage everywhere. Yeah.
Regarding chaos and tension on the planet at the moment, Peter, what have you got lined up for us today?
Yes, well, this book, The Monstrous Anger of the Guns and How the Global Arms Trade is Ruining the World and What We Can Do About It, is actually a book review and a discussion by Pauline Welsh. And this, of course, has been involved. This book has been written by 20 people, including Jeremy Corbyn. And, of course, he's well known as a strong voice for social justice, isn't he?
And peace. He's a peacemaker. He's
Yes.
always been a peacemaker. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are listening to Emergence News. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your company. And at the moment in the studio, we have Peter, who has 2 editions of the Share International magazine. And you're looking at part 1 initially, Peter.
That's right, yes. And these are from Share International magazine. As I say, 20 of these writers, including Jeremy Corbyn, contribute to the book, all of them united by a common understanding that the consequences of the global trade in weapons are indefensible, and that to end them we must expose the political and economic roots of war. These snapshots showing some of the many ways that people are struggling against the arms trade and the pervasive culture of militarism can show us how and where to focus our efforts and give us hope for the struggle of the future. Farkas, economist and politician, says the book equips readers with the information they need to resist the lies that feed humanity's urge to commit suicide. Probably back when many millions of people worldwide were on the streets in February 2003, protesting against the Iraq War and demanding peace, most knew without any doubt whatsoever that we were being sold lies. That was part of our anger, our rage, our driving force. As reported in this magazine in April 2003, Maitreya himself, in the guise of an Afro-Caribbean man, was seen and interviewed at the Hyde Park rally during the 1.8 million strong demonstration in London. That's a huge number of people.
Huge. It's the biggest I think ever in Britain. Yeah.
It is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it also shows that the government had no mandate at all to go to war.
No.
You
No,
know, yeah.
They're not just as clueless as they seem, they're even worse.
Yes.
So 15th of February 2003, Maitreya was seen talking about waking up. The world belongs to the human race, brother. I am proud today to hear my brothers and sisters speaking the truth and showing out the lies. That's beautiful. Clearly, we should not hesitate to show out the lies. However, we can now, more than ever, as global conflicts proliferate to the point of sheer insanity. Our problem in 2003 was that we didn't have the evidence of the truth until after the disastrous war and all others spawned by it. Monstrous Anger of the Guns offers plenty of evidential material and expert analysis, witness accounts from a wide range of conflict zones across the world. It shows how they, the powers that be, know how to grow gross domestic product and wealth for a few on an overpopulated planet with diminishing extractive resources. How to sow the seeds of desperation among the many, fueling division and wars, as many as possible, while mindlessly reaping the benefits of a burgeoning monstrous war machine and gambling on the outcomes. They don't worry about the outcomes. Whoever wins doesn't matter because they make money either way, don't they?
Definitely, yes.
It's just business. It is absolutely horrible. The book exposes the market of death, known in polite society as the arms trade. It's the product of many brilliant, well-informed people who have spent much of their lives documenting how weapons companies, with the support of governments, enrich themselves and cause sorrow around the world. They tell the story, chapter by chapter, how lobbying, corruption, and networks of power prop up the deadly system. So it is incredible. You see that they've got the amount of military spending by the United States is $1.5 trillion, and that works out at 12.6% per capita of the spending. You know, it's just unbelievable. China has 0.6 of 1%. They make out that China's the big enemy. But
Yes.
if you keep hitting someone for a while, they might become an enemy, mightn't they?
And they spend all this money, and in the meantime, people are dying of hunger, losing their homes. You know, they're not getting the health care they need.
I know.
And it's sort of, yes, it's just crazy world. But it's also waking us up, and so we have to look at it, the positive of it, you know.
And realise it's not working, this war machine. It's poisoning every aspect of our world, isn't it?
It is.
And it feeds the culture of winners and losers.
Yes, that's right.
The separate divide continues to grow as a result of the war.
Oh, that's right. And I mean, at the moment, they're picking on Iran. And we know Iran's sort of boosting up their defences, but, you know, at the same time, why pick on Iran? It's just because they've got a government they disagree with.
The monstrous anger of guns and how the global arms trade is ruining the world. We've discussed how it's ruining our world. Let's look at part 2 next and discuss what we can do about it. This is Emergence News as we look at the 2 articles in Share International magazine, The Monstrous Anger of the Guns, how the global arms trade is ruining the world. So we've had a look at that. Now we're turning our attention to part 2 with Peter, and hopefully we can ask ourselves, right, what can we do about it?
Thanks, Nigel. Yes, well, one of the articles, one of the subjects that the article brings up is student action. And there's currently a chasm between the ethical expectations of students and the actions of their universities. While universities used to be home for those fighting for social justice, the higher education environment has become increasingly hostile to progressive causes. I think the governments actually get a hand in that, don't they? They attack the universities if it's not falling in line with their own particular philosophy.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
They're trying to steer the conversation.
Steer it, that's exactly right, Shafir, yes. Administrators continue to show their complete disregard for upholding ethics, and they continue to hold them accountable. So the students are doing a good job with that, but, you know, it's a long battle, that one.
And, of course, the other thing with universities is there's an ingrained culture of competition embedded there. And if you think about the schools, they are having to be run, administration is being pressured all the time to run the school like a business. It's the bottom line that's important. And it won't be any different with the varsities in tertiary education.
And if they get grants from the arms industry,
exactly,
you know, it just tilts the whole conversation, doesn't it?
My cousin was a CEO here for the Polytech, and he said that once he became CEO, he became a businessman rather than an educator.
Yeah,
and he really felt that sort of shift in his position
and the compromise of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So industrial action. In November 23, transport workers' trade unions in Italy, Turkey and Greece issued a joint statement demanding an end to the transfer of arms to Israel through their ports. I think we've seen that in the papers too as well. The history of transport workers has already been clearly on the side of peace against fascism, racism, against any occupation and oppression of people.
And the other great thing I saw on social media last night was that there's this one young guy who goes to university and is a really strong advocate for Palestine, and he's fundraising for all these trade unionists in Europe.
Oh, okay.
So this is in America and so it shows that it's becoming an international sort of fight, or sort of, resistance is becoming very international. And everybody is seeing what's happening around the world and trying to support each other, which is exactly what the Age of Aquarius is about.
Yeah.
And I remember on a previous edition of Emergence News, Shafir, you talked about the number of people that applied to be a part of the Freedom Flotilla.
Yes.
And you said something like 2,500 applications.
Yes, and now we've seen, do you see that the second one's going? So that is going to be 1,000 people and, I don't know, twice as many boats. I think over 100 boats. And Israel struggled to
administer.
Yes,
the onslaught of
50
vessels.
boats. Yes, and so they've doubled it, and they've got 1,000 people going from all around the world. And you know that they've never ever had a boat land in Gaza since Israel took charge.
Since the war.
Since the war, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if they can do that, that'll be amazing. And there's going to be hospitals and food and, and all sorts of things going,
Yes.
doctors and nurses.
I never found out what happened to that temporary harbour that the Americans put in. It was meant to bring relief.
I think it just didn't work.
It was just rhetoric, wasn't it?
Yes, it was just a distraction.
Yes, and in the meantime, we've got thousands of trucks waiting on the Egyptian border to come in.
Yeah.
Have you got details there, Peter, of the port in Belgium where they also had port workers blocking the loading of explosives?
Yes. It says here about the Belgian port workers who had blocked loading explosives destined for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They were responding to an urgent call from Palestinian trade unions for trade unions and all people of conscience to end all forms of complicity with Israel's crimes. Most urgently, halting the arms trade with Israel, as well as all funding for military research. The Belgian port workers' action, supported by other activists, held up transport of those explosives for 2 months.
And we've also had the justice system stepping in and freeing all the Elbit System people who went in and ruined the Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli arms firm in the UK. And so they went in and created criminal damage, and they've been arrested. They've been held for a long time. Then there was some people who were on hunger strike, and the government they went to trial, and the justice has overturned the.
Goodness.
So they're actually, there's actually a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't, and people are supporting this and having to help fundraise, and there's lots of people donating as well.
So what you're saying is there is a lot of activity going on,
yes,
where people are actively mobilising resistance, but
yes.
it's not reaching mainstream media.
No, well they're not covering it at all. No.
And that's what's so good about the Share International, is
Mm-hmm.
it is independent of those, the mainstream media is.
And why we should support independent media wherever we find it, that one that we can trust.
Yes, that's right.
And Peter, have you got any information on the resistance work from the port in Hawaii?
Yes, well, we've got something there with a Hawaiian spokesperson there, and they're talking about the succeeding in permanently closing down the highly toxic Red Hill fuel storage facility. Young and old alike, he said, stood together on the front line. Closing Red Hill took months of mass protests, direct actions and grassroots organisations driven by a sense of responsibility to all who are being oppressed, not just ourselves.
And to finish this program today, we've got a reading from Benjamin Krem's Master, an article that very much talks about justice and the elimination of war, hopefully, cross fingers. And that's coming up with Shafir and Peter in just a moment.
So this is a message from the Master from the Share International, May 1984. Justice is divine. Justice is divine, longed for by millions bereft of its sacred balance. Justice brings to the world of men the harmony of God. As a looking glass reflects the image of man, so does justice reflect the nature of the divine. The measure of the lawlessness of the time is known by the degree of injustice in the world, and today injustice stalks the poor on every hand.
Legally, justice rules the field of social regulation, of crime and punishment, but fundamentally justice has to do with the laws of God, which work towards harmony and correct relationship. Every injustice, however small, brings disharmony to the whole. Today, so great are the areas of injustice in every land that extraordinary measures are required to prevent total chaos.
Injustice is a denial of man's divine potential. It separates man from man and humanity from God. Throughout the world, many are struggling to free themselves from the age-long injustice, exploitation and tyranny, to set down at last the yoke carried by their forebears. We, the watching hierarchy, commend their struggle, for we see it as an expression of the divine spark in all men yearning for freedom and justice. We give them our hand as we gaze with compassion on their plight.
There are those who would deny that all men have equal rights to share of God's providence, those who argue that they have listened only to the voice of the separated self, forgetting that naught that they have and hold but comes to them from God. When men take heed of the voice of God within, they find in sharing injustice the only answer to man's ills.
Today, more and more, that voice of the inner God is being heard. On all sides are arising spokesmen for the dispossessed. The clamour for justice is growing, and soon will swell into crescendo sound, drowning out the cries for caution which issue from the representatives of the past.
How can there be two worlds when the world is one? How can there be division when the law is the same for all men? Presently men will understand that the suffering of the many is the illness of the whole, and that justice alone will provide the cure.
Aid provides but half the answer. Though aid is essential now, justice must blossom fully in the garden of men's hearts, and so set all men free.
Justice creates the conditions in which man can know himself as God, linked to his brother by love. He can take boldly in his hands his future and fashion it according to the blueprint of God. Many desire the future now, blessed as they are with a vision of the whole. Yet naught but work and effort will bring it into being through the manifestation of justice, love and joy.
Remember as you move towards the future that no one takes these steps alone. As brothers all, must men proceed along the pathway that leads directly to the source. From that very source does justice emanate, relating men in harmony and love.